Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The story of Mahabharata that we did, what are we trying to do here? Okay? We live our life at times overwhelmed by situations. Okay? Situations happen in front of us, we get into a mode of what? Helplessness, and then we think that what? All the sadness or all the fears or all the anger that I have is something that is all very justified, and we what? Stay within this framework. Whole life goes in what? Going around the same framework and what? Further entangling your life into that framework, thinking that this is my destiny. This is my fate. Okay. The whole Gita's teaching is to get out of this whole framework, because the whole point is that you have a free will, and you have to learn how to use your free will adequately, because that's your freedom. 5 people can go through similar situations and respond to the same similar situations very differently. When they respond to similar situations differently, what happens to their future outcome? Is it the same? No. Okay? So that means you take charge of your life. Learn how to use your free will adequately, because you have a choice. Either you can just act as though things are helpless and act as a victim of circumstances and have anger, can have sadness, can feel miserable, self-pity, or trying to control things over which you have no control, or you can navigate your life wisely, make proper choices to help yourself, so that what? The future is not decided. It is a function of the choices that you make now, in conjunction with what? The past cause and effect laws as they apply to you. Okay? So that means if I were to change my future, what do I need to do? Understand life better and make better choices. That is the only thing that I have in my hand. So the whole wisdom is to equip my buddhi so I make better choices out of understanding the realities differently. Okay? So now the whole Mahabharata story, as we saw, that the whole presentation of dharma, generally we have the picture of black and white, right and wrong. Okay? The whole complexity of life is that there is a whole big spectrum that is available to us, and the difficulty of choosing because we don't have all the information. It's a fact. At no given point in time, we have knowledge of all the variables that are at play. Okay? And at the same time, that doesn't then mean we have no information either. We go from black and white. Because I don't know all the variables, then what? I'm helpless. No, because you do have access to some variables. How do I use those variables adequately, and what do I do for the unknown variables? The prayer that we saw today is an action which is performed to influence what? The unknown variables. You don't know. You want to accomplish a given end. You have tried all that you can within your own variables, but you know that there are so many unknown variables at play over which you have no control. Because you don't have no control, you feel what? Helpless. Because your capacity to manipulate, first of all to identify known variables itself is a difficulty. Then work in order to get all the known variables in line with what you want to accomplish itself is a big job. Unknown variables are too many. You don't even know what is at work to give you the results that are coming to you. Okay? So what is a good life where you use your faculty of choice with the highest possible, most optimally? What do? Identify the known variables, work, use your effort, identify the laws at work, laws of dharma, align your living with what? Laws of dharma and how they operate. For the unknown variables, there is only one action that a human being has, and that is a prayer. That's the only thing. When you act on your helplessness, what happens? You are no longer helpless, but because you have been proactive.
So prayer is your last option?
Yeah, prayer is a smart living, because when you perform actions, you only what? The extent to which you have identified known variables, it will improve your chances of success. Right? After having done that, you do your part. It's not like everything is. After having done that, you add one more variable which will influence the result in your favor. Okay? I had an example, I gave an example, Neeru gave me a better example. Okay? You have H2O, which is what? Water, right? 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So they combine together to produce water. Now you add one more variable and you add one more oxygen atom, it will become H2O2. What will it be? Hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide. What have you done is, before there were 3 variables interacting with each other to produce a given outcome. By adding one more variable, that variable interacted with what? The existing 3 to produce a different outcome. What is a prayer? The additional input which will act in conjunction with all the other efforts that you have made, and it will change the outcome. It cannot but change the outcome because it follows what? Action and result, the cause and effect. Okay? By adding prayer, you increase what? the probability of your getting something that you wish, you increase the probability. So that's why it is a smart thing to do, because there is no one decision which is made by you by knowing everything. There is no decision. So you add a prayer to increase your possibility of getting what you are interested in getting. This is why in the morning when we saw this ritual, there is a very common misconception that, oh, you just pray and then the result will happen. If some of you understand Sanskrit, the prayer is very, very precise. It tells exactly what am I looking for. This is what we call sankalpa. Sankalpa is first know for myself what am I looking for. Because in saying what, in that answer to what am I looking for shows my maturity of what is of importance to me. And then ask for help. Ask for help and also what? Do what you have to do to get what you have to get. There are known variables over which you have to work, unknown variables where you need to ask for help. And who do you ask for help?
Ishvara.
Ishvara. What is Ishvara? Yeah, the laws are seen as manifestation of Ishvara. The laws are not just dumb mechanical laws. Okay? The laws interact with each other constantly to produce this amazingly intelligent universe. So that intelligence which makes each law what it is and makes each one combine with each other is Ishvara. Okay. This is what we call intelligent living. Now, people, the characters in Mahabharata, what are they doing? There is a spectrum of characters. Some characters in Mahabharata are totally driven by what? Their desires, their ambitions.
Egos.
Yeah. What they want to achieve in life and what? Do whatever they can to get whatever they are looking for. There are other characters in Mahabharata who are doing what?
The righteousness.
Yeah, they are trying. They are trying to see what is the right thing to do. Sometimes they are successful. Like we saw in the case of Yudhishthira, many times he was successful. When it came to the game of dice, he made a wrong choice. Even though he was trying to follow dharma, he failed to do what? He failed to see the overall situation. He just went by the rules of the book. So you can't label one person as dharmic and another person as adharmic. Even when you attempt to be dharmic, sometimes you make a wrong choice. This is what it shows. This is how human mind is. And for every choice that you make, there is a consequence. And you can't escape the consequences of the choices that you make. Okay? So this is where we saw, even though highly dharmic, at that dice game, he only went by what? That a king, when he is invited to a game of dice, he has to accept the invitation. He just blindly went by that rule. What happened? Disaster. Okay? Because he failed to see, in other case, if the person was fair, who was the one who was inviting? What was the motive of that person? All that has to go into your decision making. That's why anytime you give some hypothetical situation where all these things, all the nuances are not known, and you ask for an answer, there is no answer. Because so many nuances are at work, without understanding of the whole thing, you can't give an answer. Every choice that you make has to take into account different characters that are involved, their motivations, your relationship to them. There is no such thing called, in this situation you have to do this situation, that would be very easy. Life would be very easy. That whole buddhi we have to cultivate. Different kind of a buddhi. Let me see what is in front, what is it that I know, what can I know better, what is dharma, how I can understand dharma better, what are my limitations to understanding that dharma. All these series of questions you need to answer before you can come up with the right answer. Okay? So this is what we saw, that Yudhishthira, while following dharma, he made a wrong choice. He accepted the invitation. What happened? He started losing everything. This is a consequence. He accepted losing he started losing everything. He lost his entire kingdom. Then he lost all his brothers. He lost himself. And then what? His wife. Lost his wife. And that loss was a huge loss. Because what did Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra try to abuse her? And everybody was sitting in the court and nobody protected her. Why?
Because it's the consequences of what?
They went by the rule book.
They went by rule book. Okay? Exactly. They went by rule book. Yudhishthira had a free will to whether play the game of dice or not to play the game of dice. Till when he plays the game of dice. That also he had a free will. He could have said, now I don't want to. And he continued. He continued.
Can I ask a small thing?
Yeah.
I've recently tried to read the part of the original Mahabharata. It continuously says that Duryodhana and Shakuni knew that he is addicted to the game of dice. So, does an addict have a free will?
See, this is the thing, that the addict's free will is very weak. Anytime you are an alcoholic, you are an addict. Okay? So that means the person has free will, but the person has not exercised that free will. So that means his free will becomes very weak. Then a person can choose that now, first of all, the person keeps on justifying. Oh, alcohol, so what? I can anytime give it up, but, So the person, first of all, does not use one's free will to help oneself. The minute the person realizes that I want to help myself, he tries to, what? He tries to help himself and connect with people who will help him to give it up. And the first thing, the person who is helping him makes him realize is that right now, what? Alcohol is running my life. I don't have any choice. Even though I have a choice, I don't exercise that choice. Then what does the person who's making him not addicted do?
To help him take
responsibility. Exactly. Take the responsibility. Okay? The more you take responsibility, you nurtured your free will to take charge. Nothing is static, nothing is given and you are doomed. This whole vision of this is how it is and things I am helpless is a wrong it's a wrong starting point. You have a free will and you can decide any time to use it better and help yourself. And then you always, universe provides you with possibility of what? Correcting your whole wrong orientation and taking you more towards what is the right thing to do. So this is exactly what is, this so-called addiction and all that is just failing to use one's free will adequately. Okay. So therefore, this Yudhishthira now is not only he has to pay, but who has to pay? Entire family. Because you live in an interconnected world. One wrong choice made by you not only is something which is going to lead what? Difficulties for you, but your life is connected to series of people. And it is going to affect all of them. Okay. Now, and everybody said he had a choice, he made this choice, so now what can we do? Who was, then Draupadi wanted to protect herself, so she asked in the court that who did he lose first?
No.
Did he lose himself first, or did he lost himself first? If he has already lost, then he is no longer a king. What right? He is a slave. What right does he have to put me as a pet? But nobody listened to her. People were all caught in their own helpless framework. Who comes and helps her at that time?
Krishna.
Lord Krishna. What is his vision? He is not caught by the textbook rules. He is seeing the totality of the situation. He sees that the whole thing was a setup. Shakuni did not abide by the rules from the beginning.
And he
The
didn't
whole
realize,
thing was a foul game.
He didn't realize that Shakun is not following the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Did he realize or he didn't realize?
Who?
Krishna.
Yudhishthira.
Krishna obviously realized.
Yudhishthira.
Yudhishthira, he knew the character of Shakuni. He knows the character. He's a manipulating person who's, I don't know, in the Mahabharata is it said that whether Yudhishthira knows exactly that Shakuni is cheating?
Well, it just goes on, it's baffling. It says that everybody knew that that person is expert at manipulating the game.
That's right.
And he
He has made the dice with the bones of his father so that
But could control it by will.
But the point is, as you were saying as an extension of that when there is an addictive behavior, you tend to go with the friend of addiction rather than the friend of reason. So Yudhishthira at that point takes a choice to go with the friend of addiction rather than friend of reason.
But I have one question. That when Draupadi says that what right he has to put me because he's no more a king and I'm not his property. So at that time, entire wise people were there. So more than the rule, like the humanity, why it doesn't come up and rules become secondary because rule is being made and humanity is much higher. And rule has been made by the people and the humanity is so universal.
So, this is a story where what we are trying to
If you have
say.
to add a detail, there is the 100th Kaurav who is called as Vikarna. His is the only voice of reason in the Sabha. Before Krishna appears on the scene, after Draupadi does all this, then Vikarna challenges his brothers. He is the lone Kaurav challenging the 99 Kauravas on their decision. But what is the difference between Vikarna and Krishna is that Vikarna's voice of reason does not have power. Krishna's voice of reason also has power. So Krishna can implement his reason with that kind of a force
And stronger
and
connection.
stronger conviction. Vikarana does not have power. That is how Mahabharata goes.
Yeah, so I'll stop going it, but there are genuine doubts. You said Krishna could see the totality of everything. Actually, he could see the totality as far as time dimension also was concerned. So if he can see everything, then where do we or anybody sitting there had free will? If he knew this is going to happen,
No.
If
we're not
somebody
talking,
knows-
we are talking about how the laws of karma operate. The law, it's not that we are not talking about one Krishna sitting somewhere looking at the world and then you are all puppets to him. This is all very different vision, please. We can't make it into, we can't fall into that kind of a paradigm, which is a wrong paradigm to start with. Right? The whole vision of Gita is very, very different. Right? So it's not that you are all puppets and he's somebody sitting there and putting a string to us. That's not how Ishvara
No, this is what
right?
we want you to help us understand.
Exactly. So this is where, in fact, the whole presentation of what is Ishvara itself is, as I said, it is the intelligence which is what?
Perfection,
Manifesting
you know? Yeah.
in form of different laws. So that means there are laws of dharma, and laws of dharma what? The result is in keeping with the actions, and then what? Draupadi had absolutely what? No fault of hers. The laws of dharma protect her. Even though individuals were not able to protect her, the laws of dharma protected her. This is what we have to understand.
So why it did happen?
Sorry? No,
Why, in spite of-
because the whole thing is that she's not the only character. There are so many characters, so many things are happening.
Like I don't know, I read some stories or something. This happened to Draupadi because she was she didn't treat all 5 husbands equally.
See, all this you can go on. Let's take only a few parts, because otherwise we get totally caught in the stories. Let's look, because I need to actually move into and look into what exactly Gita is saying, right? Otherwise we get into all these details and details and details and we don't move forward. So these are all very valid questions. What we are trying to see here, please keep in mind what we are trying to see. Keep that as a focus. Otherwise, our buddhi is such that there are questions within questions. They're all trivial. We don't see the totality of that wisdom. That what is a detail seems like a very big thing. Okay, so let's look at the overall picture. Okay, and we move on, because all these we can discuss in the evening when we have time. Otherwise, we will not have time to actually move ahead with the material. Okay, so yeah, the perspective of the laws. The laws protect the people who are following dharma. This is what one needs to understand. Not that there is one person who has my life under his control and he will do whatever he wants with my life. This is a very primitive way of looking at Ishvara and my relationship with Ishvara. Okay. So, this is, she is protected, okay. But after having protected her, again what happens? That there was one more chance given, and they said, okay, now there is another game of dice we will play. Either they regain the whole thing or they go to the forest for 12 years. Okay? Again, obviously Shakuni had manipulated, so what happens? They have to go to the forest for 12 years. Okay? So that going to the forest for 12 years itself was a result of what? A manipulation by Shakuni. Now here again they had a choice. Here again they could have said, okay, I'm going to not follow this because the whole game is a setup. But what did they do? they went along with this and they went to the forest. In the forest, they lived. Lord Krishna came and visited them. They knew the possibility of a war. So therefore, Arjuna goes to Indra to get all the astras that are needed. All that things were happening. Then, after 12th year, there was 1 year. What Duryodhana said is, in that 1 year, you have to be incognito. Okay. If you are found out within that 13th year, then again you have to go to the forest for next 12 years. Okay. So they all disguised themselves, and the one became, Bhima became a cook, Arjuna became the teacher of dancer, and Yudhishthira became the king's advisor. Nakula and Sahadeva became what? The one person was looking after the cows and the other one after the horses. Okay? So you have all these 5 people, in disguise. Then, when the 13th year was over, then, of course, in the meantime, Duryodhana is frantically trying to look for them so that they again go back to the forest for another 12 years. Okay. Now, what happened is, in one case, there was an act of bravery, and Duryodhana immediately knew this cannot be done. Exactly. This cannot be done by anybody other than Arjuna. Okay. So he immediately sends his force, they find out, but now the question is, when they were found out, whether 13 years were over or not. So, according to the time, the 13th year was just over before they were found out. But Duryodhana, what did he say? No, it was not over. So he insisted that you have to go back because he did not stick to the facts. He tilted the whole thing in his own favor by saying that this is not past 13th year. Okay? Then came the whole, again, impasse. What to do now? Okay? Because at least Pandavas had to get their original little kingdom that they had back. Okay? Duryodhana refused. He says, no. Okay? It was such an impasse that Lord Krishna, he offered to go as a negotiator. Please understand, all these, nobody can make this statement just by looking at the end product. We tend to be so simplistic in our analysis of dharma. We say, oh, we have these rules. Any war is bad. What leads to the war? Who are the characters? What are their motivations? We don't look into any of that. Okay? So therefore, Lord Krishna goes as a negotiator. He talks to Duryodhana. He says, give them their own thing back. Duryodhana says, no way. He says, okay, if you don't want to give the one little province which is within his huge kingdom, you give at least 5 little provinces within that big little province that they have to them. He said no. He says, okay, give 5 villages within one province. Duryodhana said no. Give 1 village with 5 houses. No. Give 1 house with 5 rooms. Duryodhana says no. Everything that had to be done to avoid the war, it was tried. Don't think that it was an irresponsible decision at all. Okay? Everything that was in his hand, he tried. Duryodhana refused to budge. He said, even if you want 1 little ounce of land, you have to fight and you have to take it.
Suicha Agaravar, that's the needle. the earth that will stay on the tip of the needle.
Yeah, even that much
Even that
if he
much.
wants, then he has to fight and take it. At this point, war became inevitable. Okay? And when you declare a war, it is not an act of terrorism, because you declare a war, each party has an equal chance to gather their own people. You have rules of war. Okay. Each one has time to prepare.
It's an open competition.
It's an open competition, exactly. Right? So this is where he says, now each one is trying to prepare for the war. Each one wants Lord Krishna. Because everybody understands Lord Krishna is not an ordinary person, right? And he is a king of Dwarika. So both come to Lord Krishna to ask for his help in the war for their side. When they come, Lord Krishna is sleeping. Duryodhana comes and he sits near the head of Lord Krishna. Arjuna sits at the feet. When Lord Krishna gets up, who does he see first? He sees Arjuna first. Okay. So he says, I see Arjuna first, so now you have a choice. Arjuna gets to choose first. And the choice is something which is quite incredible. Okay? Very unusual choice. He says, on one hand, you can choose my entire army, all the weapons that we have collected, okay, and everything, and on the other side, me, Krishna, and I will not fight. That's a choice. Okay. Arjuna has to choose first. What is going on in Duryodhana's mind? What is going on in Duryodhana's mind is, I hope Arjuna is this emotional fool. He takes Krishna, who's totally useless. He is not going to fight. He doesn't have any weapon. What is the use of this Krishna? But because he is such a good friend and they've always been together, I hope he chooses Krishna so that I can get what? The entire army, all the weapons and everything. And he's just hoping that he makes that choice. What is going on in Arjuna's mind? Arjuna is thinking, I have all the skills. I have no dearth of skills. I have all the expertise. I have all the weapons. I have everything. But what makes difference between victory and loss, and that is what? Whether Ishvara in form of dharma is on your side or not. This is what we call the unknown variables. Okay. So this is where he sees the importance of Ishvara being on his side. He chooses Lord Krishna because his value and his understanding is very different from Duryodhana's understanding and his value system. Both of them go out of Krishna's room being very happy. This is what, please don't blame Ishvara. Life is given to you, variables are given to you, you have to make choices, and please don't blame Ishvara for the choices that we make and the consequences that we face for those choices. And the choices we make are dependent upon what we understand of life. Okay. So this is where you, even to ask for something which is desirable, you need to have a lot of intelligence. Our teacher used to say, tomorrow Narayana will stand in front of you and ask you whatever you want, you give. You tell me and I'll give you. What you will ask will depend upon what? What you understand about life. Even to have that desire, to explicitly desire what you look for, you require a lot of wisdom. Okay? And this is all about knowing what we are looking for. Whole Gita is about knowing what am I looking for in life. Ask the right questions. Once you ask the right questions, the solutions will be there. Otherwise, you are caught in your framework thinking that there is no way out. And this is how things are. Okay? So both of them go, then what happens? The war, the day of the war. What happens at the day of the war? Duryodhana is looking and he goes to who? Dronacharya. And he says, look at all these people against whom we have to fight. Why does he go to Dronacharya?
It's the Guru.
He's the Guru. Bhishma, he knows, is a person of resolve. Once he has decided, he is bound by his vow, which is what? I will protect whoever is the king of Hastinapura. Okay? Now that itself is what we see in this whole interpretation of Mahabharata is going by this vow blindly. It's like what Neeru says is a textbook rule. Okay? Where you say that you are going to protect the king provided the king has occupied the kingdom legitimately. If the king has not occupied the kingdom legitimately, you have no obligation to protect it. But he failed to interpret this. So he went by the textbook rule, and what happened? He ended up on the wrong side of dharma. So he was with Duryodhana, but he was such a person of resolve that having decided that and he said that I am bound by this vow that I have taken, he will not swerve. He will fight till his whatever, till the end. But Dronacharya, Duryodhana was not 100% clear, because who was the favorite student of Dronacharya? Arjuna. Arjuna was the favorite student. He always had liking for Arjuna. So now he wants to make sure that Dronacharya's loyalty is what? 100% with Duryodhana and not with. The soft corner for Arjuna does not what? Interfere with his fight. So he goes and he preps him up. So his whole focus is how to get all these people to fight and give their best so that I can defeat everyone. This is Duryodhana's mindset. What is Arjuna's mindset? Arjuna then is asking Lord Krishna, his Sarathi, to show what is going on. When he sees, his reaction is totally different. What is his reaction?
All his loved ones.
First, he says that in fact I only see my own people. I don't see any enemy. I see my loved ones. I see my teachers, people that I respect, Bhishma, on whose lap I have grown up. How can I kill all these people? That was his first reaction. And then he says, I cannot fight. But in that state of mind, people highlight this fact that he thought that they were all his people. His analysis in chapter 1 and chapter 2 goes far beyond that. Okay? He gives number of reasons why he did not want to fight. After having said that, he says that not only my people, all these other soldiers who have gathered, I have to kill them all to win the war. So therefore, he says, it's not only about my killing my loved ones, it is what? the overall destruction that is going to be caused in the society, so many innocent people are going to go. That was his second reason. The third reason he gave is, after the war, what would be the society? All the men would be destroyed, women will be widowed, with children, orphans, right? What kind of society, for how long? It's not just an event now, there are so many consequences for generations. Okay? So the implication of his action, not only with reference to his loved ones, the overall destruction, the impact of that given event in the society for generations after. Okay? These are the three reasons he gave, and the fourth reason he gave is, if I am using my free will to make this choice for my benefit, imagine the consequences. Because if the laws of dharma are operating, I choose to ignore those laws of dharma, and I create all these series of destruction, what would be the consequence for me? He says, I have heard, it is like the worst naraka. Naraka means it's a worst kind of a unpleasant situation that I have to face. Okay, so these are, he was aware about the laws of dharma. And he was aware about the fact that if you use your free will to go against dharma, there are consequences. With all this in mind, he says, I don't want to fight. In that state of distress, Arjuna's analysis of the situation was what? Very complete. People only highlight this fact, they are my people, they are my people. He was actually giving number of reasons.
Yes.
Very well articulated reasons. Very well thought of reasons not to fight. Now, everybody thinks that Arjuna was right. But in the vision of Lord Krishna, there is this whole different way of looking at life. Okay? Now, in addition to giving all these reasons why he did not want to fight, Arjuna moves to something which is even more fundamental. He has two questions. One is, what should I do in this situation? I'm confused, because this is how I see it, but maybe there is another way of looking at it. That open-mindedness, if you don't have, you are caught in your own framework. You think, I'm very smart, I have looked at all these 4 different criteria, I'm very far-looking, and this is the way, there is no other way of looking at the situation. After analyzing it, Arjuna says, this is what I think, but tell me. And he says, I have a confusion. Please tell me what is the right way of looking at this situation and assessing it. That open-mindedness is the first qualification to look into Gita. Otherwise, we all think that we are great experts on dharma, we know it all, and what we think is right. We have this whole sense of arrogance. And that very arrogance keeps us from learning. We miss out on the whole big wisdom, ocean of wisdom in form of Gita. He says, I am confused. You teach me what is the best way of looking at this situation. That is, what do I need to do at this point in life? After having said that, he goes one step further. He says, regardless of whether I win this battle or I don't win this or I lose, I don't see solution to my sorrow. Okay? If I give up and I said, okay, I'm walking out because I'm not interested in fighting, and I sit in one corner, do you think that this whole big challenge, and then what? Instead of rising up and responding to challenge, you just retreat and say, I give up. Will that give you happiness? Situations come in your life, you find them overwhelming, and what? You want to run away from them without responding to them. Does that bring happiness? No. It can never bring happiness. Okay? And if he wins, and at the cost of what? Killing everyone, again he sees what? He will be still unhappy. For the first time in his life, he realizes that all these accomplishments that I have gained so far, all these titles, all these skills that I have gathered, all these privileges that I have, has not solved and will not solve one problem, and that is what? Problem of sorrow.
Sorrow.
Personal happiness.
Sorrow is something which represents sense of limitation, sense of lack, sense of inadequacy, sense of helplessness that we all have. No matter what we do in this world, we can't get rid of. We think that by acquiring more money, we'll get rid of this sense of inadequacy. By having more power, we will get rid of this sense of inadequacy. By controlling environment, we will get rid of sense of inadequacy. By following dharma, we will get rid of sense of inadequacy. None of them are useful in getting rid of problem of inadequacy. He realizes that and he asks for Shreyas. Shreyas stands for moksha. Okay? He understands the limitation of artha. What is artha? Searching for securities. Security is in form of money, family,
Material
yeah.
Emotional.
Let's not call it material, because when you give it a label of material, then you have this whole thing that, oh, this is all bad. We are not talking about. We are just seeing the limitation of different pursuits that we have, their incapacity to give us what we are searching for without giving it a bad, we are not trying to give it a bad connotation.
Absolutely.
Right? So that means money, this is a normal pursuit. Power, normal pursuit. Positions, normal pursuit. Family, normal pursuit. These are all coming under what we call artha. We are not calling artha bad or anything, please understand. But inherently, it is not capable of removing my sense of inadequacy. That is, that I'm trying to remove. It can do something. Because it does not remove the inadequacy, does it mean it is useless? No. It has a use. Where is the use? Money is a resource. It can buy me a comfortable house. It can buy me a comfortable, a good education, not only for myself but for my children. It's a resource. If I feel I have extra, what? It empowers me to distribute to others. But through money, if I'm trying to feel adequate, get rid of my sense of inadequacy, I will never get rid of my sense of inadequacy. We think by multiplying it, what? I will increase my sense of inadequacy. That is not true. Just seeing what something can give me and what it cannot give me. We are not saying one is good and one is bad. We are just analyzing life. Okay. Kama, pleasures. What are the different forms of pleasure? The whole life goes in pursuit of artha, kama. What is pursuit of kama? All different kinds of pleasures. The pleasures and the forms of pleasures keep on evolving. The pleasures that we have invented now did not exist 20 years ago. Spas, all these amazing gadgets that you have, none of them exist. An iPad did not exist. Okay. Home theaters did not exist. So many different forms that we create, which is actually a multi-billion-dollar industry, trying to figure out what will give you pleasure and entice you with that, so you will go for it. You travel by airline and you have this travel magazine. Every month they'll give you all these amazing exotic destinations. What is it doing? Creating desire in you. Before you had not even heard of that place, now you absolutely want to go to that place. Infinite possibilities of what? Human creativity can keep on creating what? Different things that will satisfy your desires. And every time what? You feel that this is not doing it, then next, then next, then next. Or prolong the experience. I've gone to spa for 5 days, then I go for 10 days because I think that what am I trying to do? I'm trying to remove my sense of lack through this pursuit of kama. The pursuit of kama, they are pleasure. No doubt about it. Okay? They do give you, if they did not give you any pleasure, nobody is crazy to pursue it. What is the problem? It gives you certain amount of pleasure, but it is not permanent. So for a while, you are in a nice state of mind, but then what? Your mind comes back to its original grind. Or even while on a vacation, there is no guarantee that you are always going to be having fun. Sometimes people used to say that when we are all very busy, we have an easy life. When we go on a vacation, everybody has a free time, they are all stuck with each other, they have more fights. Because now you are stuck with this person in your daily routine, you have somehow managed to what? Create your own space. Yeah, where you kind of, protect yourself from interacting too much with the other. Okay? So this is when we say, kama, it does give us some pleasure, but it does not help us to get rid of the sense of inadequacy. Okay? Even dharma. Dharma, it's very important to live a dharmic life, but through dharma, if you are trying to get rid of this inadequacy, is it possible? It is not possible. Because there is always, in dharma, there is always this thing that I don't know everything. That helplessness is there. I don't know all the variables. I don't totally understand how the laws of dharma and karma work. Within my limited knowledge, I am trying to do something, but I don't quite know what it is going to, bring. There is always this inadequacy. Sometimes the inadequacy manifests as, I'm so good, I'm so righteous, and I'm suffering. And look at these other people who are following adharma, they are doing all kinds of crazy things and they are prospering. This is a very common complaint. That means following dharma has made you more dissatisfied because now you have put yourself in a position that I'm suffering because of following dharma. And people are enjoying because they are not following dharma.
Very true. Constant hearing.
Constant hearing.
Constant you hear.
As though following dharma is a big burden.
Yeah.
And a big sacrifice. This whole mentality has to change. Okay? But the truth is that just by following dharma, that inadequacy that you want to get rid of, you can't. Okay? Because Arjuna was highly dharmic. He had all this dharma in mind and he was very far looking into what is his responsibility. And still he said, there is no solution to this sorrow that I am feeling. Okay? So when you recognize that your normal pursuits of artha, dharma and kama cannot give you what you are looking for, which is freedom from sense of lack, freedom from inadequacies, freedom from feeling what? Limited, helpless, then you search for that solution which will give you that freedom. And that is in our Shastra called moksha. Okay? Moksha, the root meaning of the word moksha, it comes from the root munch. Munch is to be free. Okay? And that freedom, how does one get, is what Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna. So now Lord Krishna is presented with two questions. How do I get moksha, which is the absolute freedom, which I am searching through all my pursuits? And it always eludes me because what? I am searching at a place which is not capable of giving me what I am looking for. So what is that solution to the freedom that I am searching? Very fundamental problem. Very, very fun. His whole, if Lord comes in front of you, you ask what deserves to be asked. How much analysis has gone into asking this question? Give me that which will give me shreyas, give me moksha. Okay. Secondly, now what do I do in this situation? So there are two questions. What is the solution to fundamental human problem of inadequacy, limitation, lack? And secondly, what do I do in this given situation? Now Krishna begins to answer. He has two questions that he needs to address. Where do you think is his first answer? The first answer begins with the fundamental problem. Okay? Because your very conclusion about who you are and what is your role, that itself has to be put in a totally different perspective. You need to re-understand what your true nature is. Okay? So he starts the whole teaching by, in the second chapter, verse 11, we will just chant this verse and I will explain the meaning. Maybe tomorrow. Okay. We will chant and you chant after me, then I will explain the meaning. Okay? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Ashocyananvashocastvam
Ashocyananvashocastvam
Prajnavadamscha bhashase
Prajnavadamsha bhashase
Gatasuna gatasumscha
Gatasuna gatasumsha
Nanushocanti panditaha
Nanushocanti panditaha.
Okay. Panditaha na anushocanti. Pandita is the subject. Pandita, the wise people, na anushocanti. They don't have sorrow. Okay. Now here for whom? For gata sumscha, agata sumscha. Okay. For people who are gone and people who are not gone. Okay. Now, therefore, and what does Arjuna have? He has sorrow. Right? So here he says that ashocam nanvashochasvam, that which does not deserve sorrow, you are grieving for. Okay? And even though you are grieving, what does it mean? The wise people don't grieve. The very fact that Arjuna grieves, what does it mean? He's perspective is not exactly in keeping with what is. Okay? So he has to change his perspective, see the realities differently. That is why there is a teaching. Okay? But he says, Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase. Right? You are speaking as though you are wise. So that means he does not have wisdom. So there are two people who don't have wisdom. One is what? Arjuna, and the other one is Duryodhana.
Yes.
Can you put both of them in the same category? No. Within the people who don't have wisdom, there is this whole big range of people, starting from Duryodhana to Arjuna.
Yes.
Right? And who gets the teaching?
Arjuna.
Right? Because he has asked for it.
That's right.
Not because he is the chosen one or anything. He has analyzed the whole thing which is in front of him, looked at what exactly is the problem, asked the right questions.
So he knows that he does not know.
Exactly.
See, that
He knows that he does not know.
That cultivation of the
The
mind.
cultivation
that
of
he has
mind,
done.
which leads you to ask this question and expose you to this teaching. Even Arjuna, he knew Lord Krishna all along. He never asked him for moksha, that which will give him moksha. All their conversations were what should I do here, what should I do there. They were all great friends. Lord Krishna did not go and tell him, I have this whole big knowledge which will give you the freedom, so I'm going to teach you. No, he had no pressure. It is Arjuna who, analyzing the life situation, sees the impasse and asks for solution. Only when Arjuna asks and says, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapanna. And now, this relationship of cousins, friends and all is now, and now there is a one more relationship. The one more relationship is, I am declaring you as my Shishya. I am your student. I want to know. There is a different relationship that is entered. Student and teacher. Guru and Shishya.
Mentor and mentee.
Yeah, absolutely. Arjuna asks for it, and the minute you ask, you analyze your life in a proper light and ask for answers, the universe responds. Brings teacher who will give you the right perspective. The whole teaching tradition, every teacher in this traditional teaching is all just, we try not to adulterate the whole teaching with our own thinking.
It's like growth.
Yeah. If you represent this teaching, there is an intention that Lord Krishna has in mind. You can't just add your own values and start giving whatever you think. You need to spend time understanding the intention, seeing how it is true, and you have to communicate that intention as clearly without adding your own advices into it.
And the student, readiness of the student.
Yeah.
That also
And
is
the
looking
student has to learn to listen with an open mind. Because we all have hundreds of notions about what Gita is, what Krishna is saying, what is the right thing to do, what is the nature of reality. We have thousands of notions. And every time those notions get questioned, there is a defense mechanism. Okay? You try to stay with your ideas, not learn, not give up your limited understanding of things. Okay? So that means, as Matra says, the receptivity of student is equally important. So both student and teacher, it's an interaction for learning and understanding things better. Okay. So this is an opportunity. So from next time, here, one thing is very important to understand. This particular verse, if you are not if you're not exposed to the tradition of teaching, it is made it into an advice. The advice is, you should not grieve. This is the most dangerous advice that you can give to anyone. Right? Because sorrow is something, are you choosing to have sorrow? Nobody is inviting sorrow, but sorrow comes. You are feeling helpless with reference to your sorrow, and if I tell you that you should not be sad, you are left with a huge complex, because first you have this sorrow, you don't know how to deal with it. Secondly, you are made to feel as though you are ignorant because you have sorrow. So now I compound my problem. I say, not only I have sorrow, but I am also ignorant. Because wise people don't have sorrow. Then I try to control my sorrow because I should not be sorrowful. You are setting yourself up for an incredible pressure on yourself if Gita is not handled properly. It's nothing about Lord Krishna telling him you should not be sorrowful. He says wise people see the reality differently. So your next question is, what is the reality that wise persons see, in light of which this sorrow naturally drops? Very different. Very, very different. Okay? So what is the reality that the wise person sees? What is the vision? That is what we are going to talk about in the next verses. Okay.
Yes.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate